Welcome, Strikers, to 20 Omega Striker tips and tricks. Or rather, 20-ish. This is my second time around recording this video because the first time, it was loud as shit. And this is the first time that I've recorded like this. So let's keep the trend of my videos just kind of getting right to the point. This is not a lore video, which I'm sure most of you are used to. But this is 20-ish tips and tricks, starting from kind of beginner tips to more advanced stuff that I'm sure will actually surprise some of you. So let's get right into it. So let's start with momentum. Abilities hit the core the same whether the core is standing still or you're redirecting the core 180 degrees. As an example, let's test with Estelle here. That does 1520 if the core is standing still. If the core is moving against you, it also does 1520. But if the core is already moving and you strike with it, it did 1538. So as you can see, momentum plays a factor in the game. Because momentum is truly a thing, the core will actually eventually come to the stop if it's untouched. If you're standing in the middle of the map and you hit the core either straight up or straight down, it will actually come to rest right back on top of you. As seen here, roughly right back on top of you. If you hit the core from down here, it will rest right back on top of you. And vice versa for the top. But if you power strike the core, it will actually, well, I hit it a little off that time. But it will bounce back and forth a lot of times and come to rest like right about here-ish. I'm a genius. A little advice for if you want to see the momentum of the core is you actually watch the tail. So when you strike it, it will go, it'll have like a little medium tail. If you add some momentum to it and it's going really fast, the tail will be quite a bit longer. And then it will be spitting flames when it's super hot. And then the tail slowly shrinks, and once it goes away, it's going to go about 600 more meters, I think that is in this game, 600 units. So now you might be wondering, how does momentum work with characters who kind of like stop the core? As long as the ability hits the core in the same direction that it's already going, it will keep momentum. So with the Juno slime, it's going to shoot over here towards the goal. So I'll put a slime over here. It will spit the core away in the opposite direction. Observe the numbers. I'll show you again. It's 1475. So 1475 is what it spits it out at, unless it's going with the momentum, which there was 1505. 1502 in that case. It slowed down a little bit. These slimes will build momentum for each other. So if I put a slime here and I put a slime here, as you can see, it started at 14 something and it went to 15, like 79 or whatever that said. So here and here, 14, 15. There you go. Fun fact about Dubu, he actually can't trap the core against the wall. Or rather, it can get trapped, but it doesn't ever stop. So if I trap the core in this corner here, you can see it will always keep moving. It eventually will slide out. Sometimes it doesn't slide out, but it always moves. So you would think that his ultimate is actually generating momentum in the core. But that's actually not the case. The core is just stuck, and its hitbox is getting all messed up because it's getting squished. So to prove that the ult doesn't actually build momentum, if I go here, and it bounces into it, as you can see, it's already slowing down even after hitting. The only time that the Dubu ult will generate momentum in the core is if it strikes it. Also, fun little extra bonus, Dubu is one of the only characters who can throw his abilities like outside of the map. Most characters, when they reach the wall, the ability will just go off as just like that. Same with the ultimate, just kind of line up. For some reason he can do this, which is really nice because it means on maps like Night Market, you can actually throw your ability through the wall onto the other side. So if I'm here and the core is the wall, you can actually throw the rollout through the wall. So the insta-flip from Finny, it was shown in the trailer, so a lot of you might already know that. But for those of you who don't, it looks like this. That is the insta-flip. She's one of few characters that can do it. But a little trick you might not know is you can pass to yourself. Okay, take two. But a little trick some of you might not know is you can pass to yourself. Using this, you can actually pull off some pretty tricky plays, and you can do it in the reverse as well. As you can see, you can pass to yourself in both directions. You can use this to intercept the core, intercept passes, steal it away from the enemy. There's all sorts of applications for this. But I like the idea of how much pressure it can put on the goalie. You do something like this, and boom. That's neat. By the way, you can flip the core out of Finny's ultimate and wait until it goes to rest. Now, obviously, it was my flip, so my ultimate set off the core. But if it was an enemy flip and the ult went off, the core would not have launched. And just because I know some of you might want to know this information, the initial spinning wand hits weaker than the card as it passes through her body. So you can see it's a wand here. This is a wand. And as it passes through her body, she turns it into a card. Well, the wand only does 1355, whereas the card does 1618. So if you didn't know, you can actually damage an enemy with your flip. A regular flip, if they're not staggered, is about 300 damage. If the enemy is staggered, though, it is about 1,064 damage. Boom! 1,064 damage. And it knocks them back way farther. And you can kill them with it. Goodbye. Now that I've killed them, fun fact, this little thing will pop up, and as they get close to respawning, it will get brighter and brighter and brighter until... voila! Juliet is back. If you're trying to kill a target, keep in mind that it will take 3 seconds before they start regenning health. So if I hit Juliet, 1, 2, 3, and she's regenning health. So make sure you always try and keep your spacing when you're doing damage to her so that she keeps her health loss. If an enemy is staggered, you can keep them in the staggered state by doing damage to them, but it does a lot less damage to the stagger bar. But it does stop their regen, so you can keep them in a staggered state just about infinitely. If they pick up an orb, it's not going to instantly reset their staggered state, but it will greatly increase the rate at which they get out of staggered, so you have to watch out for stuff like that. So as you can see, they got their health back, still staggered, still takes 3 seconds for their health to start regenning, but there you have it, no longer staggered. Speaking of, I'm going to say this because my friend is new to the game and he's introducing other new players, but you don't need to be staggered to get knocked out of the map. You just need to get knocked significantly enough to cross the threshold of the walls. So never stand up on the walls of the map. The only places that you're actually technically safe are these corners, as I was showing you earlier. You can't get bounced out if you're getting hit into these corners. Also known as bumpers. Some people call these bumpers. So to give Rasmus a little love, some of you might be thinking, does the chubby part do more damage? And yes, it does. It does roughly 300 more damage to the core, and it does roughly about 150 more damage to a player. So, fat part, 285. Skinny part, 157. Skinny part on the core, 1201. Fat part on the core, 1550. And I'm sure you can see for yourself, the abilities in this game, they're pretty exact. That's really nice. Online, though, and I'm assuming this is due to lag, there is something called a residual hit. So if I strike the core, and I were to strike and miss the core, and the core were to go over the ability, kind of like that, not really, then it will actually still strike the core. It happens a lot. It happens a lot with Glitch Pop, which is Imy's primary, I noticed. So I can't replicate it very well in Practice Tool. That was about as close as I'll get to it, and it still kind of looked like I hit it. That time I definitely hit it. But it's really bad online. I think the Practice Tool is way cleaner ping, which is why you don't see that as much. But online, you see it really bad. It's called residual hitting, or residual damage. And you can walk into an ability and take residual damage, and you can hit the core using it. So something to watch out for. Try to exploit it while you're online. I'm sure on LAN it's probably not a thing. Also, fun fact, Rasmus is voiced by CDawgVA. Most people know that, but I figured I'd throw it in. Now for the part of the video that I think my tips won't be as known to the general population. Zentaro's primary is 2 parts. That's not the tip, though. You can actually hit the core with each part differently. So the first part is a small little cone in front of him, and then the second part is this longer cone that comes out in front. This bar only indicates what's gonna knock back an enemy player. These like little waves that you see on the side will only do about 80 damage to a player, and it won't move them at all, but it will move the core, as you can see there. So like I said before, you can hit the core with each part of his primary individually. So there's the little 110 part. That part only kind of like stops the core and barely moves it. Whereas you can miss that part and hit it with the main part as well. Or you can hit it with both. And here's the example of how little damage the main part does to an enemy. It does 9 damage. You can barely even see their health bar move. And then you can hit them with the wave, which doesn't move them. It only does 80 damage. And then the long part actually will move your enemy and does 240 damage. To activate Zentaro's passive, which is this dash when he strikes, you actually have to hit a target 10 times, and that target can be the core, or it can be an enemy striker. You can hit them with either an ability, Or your regular strike will actually give you a stack as well. Your stacks are indicated on the bottom bar, and so now I have 1 stack and I need 9 more. Your ultimate will generate 5 stacks. So with 2 ults, you'll have your passive up. But strangely enough, if you hit 2 targets with this, you only generate roughly 7 stacks. So I've now cleared my stacks. If I ult the core and Juliet, I should theoretically get a full passive, right? But no, for some reason I only get 7. And you can see it's 7 because I will hit Juliet 3 more times. 1, 2, 3, and now I have my passive. It's probably a balancing thing. Another fact, your flip will generate stacks, and it will generate stacks based on how many you hit. So I have about 3 stacks right here. Doing this will give me 5. That means ulting will complete my stacks. Well, it gave me 7 technically, but you know what I mean. And just as proof that it's probably not a core thing, if you solo ult the core, that's 5 stacks. So if I come over here and I solo ult Juliet again, I now have my full stacks and my passive again. Using your passive will actually generate stacks for the future of your passive. What I mean by that is if I come over here and I generate my stacks. So now that I have full, once I use my passive on the core and Juliet, I will actually have 2 stacks here. Boom, 2 stacks. Hitting all parts of your attacks will generate stacks as well. So you know that I have 2 parts of my primary, meaning I should have 4 stacks here. Boom, 1, 2. And now that you've seen all of that, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, I'm gonna know everything this guy has to say about Zentaro. Except for, I have a hidden ace up my sleeve. Zentaro has a little bit of tech that I discovered while looking for things for this video. Did you know you can stop the momentum of the core generated by your dash? And you can redirect the core to make some flashy plays. So, normally, Zentaro's dash will send the core. His primary also stops and then redirects the core. But you can combine the two to dash and redirect the core for some really flashy shots. To make it even cooler, you can do it with your flip. Now I know what you're thinking, but Snulge, when you flipped it, you canceled your flip and you made it go slower. Well, you can actually use momentum, which I taught you at the start of this video, to continue the flip speed. So even though it stopped, it didn't technically stop because this does 30 damage and it was technically still moving, meaning it still had its momentum, meaning the second part of your attack sent the flip damage through. So it was going just as fast. If not a little faster. Oh no, it's a little slower. It's about 80 slower. How might you use this? Well, if the core is roughly like right here, you can flip up to here and redirect at bottom because the goalie might expect you to go up to the top side since he sees you moving that direction. Or you can delay strike it in hopes that the goalie uses his strike and that it will be on cooldown and he has no abilities to use, or he just doesn't expect you to hit it, and it goes by him by doing this. Because for those of you who don't know, your strike has a cooldown, and it's roughly about this long. This is a really rough guesstimate. I have quick strike from the practice tool on, but it's roughly about 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Actually, that's really too slow. It's like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Roughly like that. If he's standing there and you were to flip the core and launch it at him, all he simply needs to do is strike it away. But if you bait him by hitting it and he strikes too early and you delay strike it, it might slide right by him, which would be super flashy. Something like that. Now, obviously, you would want to use this when you were closer to the goal, maybe something like here. Like that would probably work if you're hitting it directly through the goalie. And I realized that Zentaro just has like insane unlocked potential. I haven't seen anybody do this in any of the ranked games that I've watched. Something even more fun is you can do it backwards. So you can do it this way and then send it back forward. This would be incredibly situational. You could do this to steal the core away. Let's say that you're up here and you just struck it up. Pass gets intercepted, you can re-intercept your own redirection and shoot it towards the goal. And you can blend all of your other abilities with it for some super extra flashy plays for something like this. Or you can save your flip and do something like this. So there's all sorts of crazy stuff that you can do. I didn't even combine my ult into that last one, which would make it look even like cooler. Zentaro just has like insanely untapped potential. I'm really excited to see where people take this. Hopefully this info reaches some Zentaro one trick and he just starts popping off, or inspires one of you to one trick him. Anyway, strikers, I can't tell you all my secrets, and for making it to the end of this video, I'll give you a little spoiler. In my next tips and tricks video, I actually learned something special about Asher. Everybody thinks she's unpredictable or buggy, which I thought, which was in my last video. I have learned that there's an effect that is actually making people, including me, think that she's broken. She's not in fact broken, and I will explain that in the next video. So, good luck with any info you found in this video. Did anything surprise you? Let me know down below in the comments, and while you're down there, don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more of this content. I really appreciate it, and thanks for all the love on the last video. Again, it's just like a huge love letter to the devs. One of the devs saw it, which made me fangirl out like crazy, so before I gush too much, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.